Hello, and welcome to Making Creativity Pay, the podcast where we talk to people in creative industries about how they promote and market their work. I'm Dan Barnett, and on this episode I spoke with Aimee Perry, who is the programmer for the Women in Comedy Festival, which starts in Manchester on the 2nd of October. We talk about the work that goes into organising and promoting a festival of this size, what the festival can offer performers, and Aimee's wider experiences in comedy, working previously at the Bill Murray and Gilded Balloon, and her current role as the head booker at the Frog and Bucket Comedy Club in Manchester. I started by asking Aimee to give a quick introduction to herself.
So, hi, I'm Aimee Perry. I am the programmer for the Women in Comedy Festival. I also am the head booker and programmer here at the Frog and Bucket. And I also volunteer for the Glitter Project, which is from Funny Women. So that's pretty much me. And I'm based in Manchester.
Fantastic. Yes, so the Women in Comedy Festival coming up in a couple of weeks as we speak. How's it going? You know, is it kind of just full on promo at the moment?
Yeah, so it's full on promo. It's full on just trying to get the word out there. We're a non-for-profit festival. We don't get any funding. So it's pretty much just on myself and Jessica, who's the director of the festival, getting out to all the cafes and putting the brochures out, doing paid ads, and just getting the acts to promote their shows as well, because it's on them too. Because they know their own audiences. So it's just kind of getting the city kind of hyped up, hopefully, about the festival. And I do like fresh affairs and stuff like that, just to kind of get it out there.
I know it's been going for a number of years now. I mean, how big is it this year?
So last year was actually our biggest year. We had 80 shows, and we felt that was quite a lot for me and Jess to kind of do on our own. Because like I said, we do everything. We pretty much host all the, look after all the shows as well. So this year we kind of cut back to 55 shows across 5 venues here in the Northern Quarter in Manchester. So it's a little bit smaller. We're still boutique-y, but people get kind of excited about it because it is for women and supporting women, really. But it's still not big in terms of festivals.
I was looking on the website. It's compared to a lot of other places, it's quite a low barrier to entry. It's only like £55 to register. So, I mean, is that like a big part of the ethos about kind of, anyone can kind of come along and perform?
100%. So we, unlike other festivals where they take all shows, we keep it boutique and we choose the shows. So it's £55 and that covers like our PA, and it also covers the brochure and the posters. And then, and if the venues have a little bit of a cost, and then they get to keep all their ticket revenue. So we don't really take any money for the festival. It's all, like I said, it's for women, and it's just creating a safe space for them to perform a show. Like a lot of people are doing their first ever show or doing their split bill for their first time. So it's a really safe space. And we pick the venues. Like normal festivals, you would apply to a venue that you want, whereas we create relationships with all the venues in the Northern Quarter. So I know them. I build those relationships over a couple of years. And then that way we know that these venues actually care about the festival and they care about these shows coming in. So that's kind of our ethos of the festival. Obviously, we have pro acts who are touring, like Helen Bauer's coming to tour and she's in at the Frog. So we have a mixture. But yeah, we try really hard to make it a space for women to come and just put on an hour.
And in terms of kind of size of venue, what's the kind of range between smallest and largest?
So the smallest one is 30. And then the largest one is 70. And then obviously the Frog and Bucket is 245. So it's quite a jump. But again, they're touring comics who are, doing a massive national tour. So, and then, the other venues, it's just a lot more realistic numbers. And that takes the pressure off as well when you've only got 30 or 40 tickets to sell, rather than going, I've got 100 to sell, which is quite daunting. And I don't think people realize how hard it is to get 100 people into a room. And it makes me feel good if they sell out at 30. Like, you know what I mean? Like when they apply to other festivals, they can go, well, I had a sold out show.
And obviously it's women in comedy. Mm-hmm. And I think, there was that kind of big distinction about women in comedy rather than women comedians.
Yeah.
And I know it kind of feels strange to kind of ask in some ways in this day and age, and in other ways it's completely obvious. About that kind of women aren't funny and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I almost kind of say, do people still think that? But I know full well they do. But it's kind of a bit. I mean, how do you find it? Kind of as a festival and as a booker and everything else.
Well, I think we're slowly getting there. I think audiences are slowly starting to change, but I think audiences still have that mindset that women aren't funny, which is crazy because some of the best comedians from the UK are female. But I think this festival helps in a way because actually the support is quite big. So people want to come out and they're like excited to support women. But yeah, it's just still slowly getting there. It's not 100%, but I think we as promoters, we just have to take more risks with people and really, make sure we're conscious of, I hate to use this word ticking boxes, but I think it is important to go, do we have enough female across the year, especially like at the Frog, make sure we've got enough women across every show. Because you can't make change without putting it in front of audiences. And I think that's why this festival is really important because it is, and Manchester's quite an inclusive city as well. And they like to support the small businesses and we're quite lucky in Manchester, but people do want to come out and they are interested in women in comedy, but it's still slow and still a lot of work to do.
I mean, I definitely don't want to call women a niche because that's really very big. But I mean, does it help as having a kind of something different about the festival? Does that help in terms of PR and press and all those kind of things?
Yeah, I think so because I think everybody's quite interested in supporting women, and I think it's still a slog though. Like I said, we don't get any funding, so that's a problem because people they talk about it, but they don't actually want to support. Like Jason Mumford is a good one. He supports the awards, so we started that last year, and then this year he's also supporting awards and putting the money up for these women to, be able to put that money towards a bigger festival for their show. But it's still really hard to get people interested. I know it's a niche, but at the same time, it's the same with sport, right? It's a niche, but it's still really hard for people to be interested. I think everyone across the board, no matter if it's the arts or sport, people are still like trying to get people to take notice.
And you were saying it's mainly kind of the two of you, and I know on the website you kind of ask for volunteers. I mean, how important are volunteers within all of this?
Really important because they help us, with ticket. It can get quite stressful getting audiences in and getting shows start on time. So they're really important because they can take the pressure off by, getting the customers in, doing the door, helping with tech if the act needs it. And also, they also create a really supportive community feel, which is how we like the festival to feel. Like we like it to be a bit more of a community, a bit special, compared to other festivals.
Obviously, like you said, it's the two of you. It's a lot. You've kind of reduced the size a little bit. But going the other way, could you see something like this happening or being a range of things across the country? I know that's kind of even more work.
That is more work. I think the problem is that the UK is quite saturated with fringes, with festivals. You only need to go on the British Comedy Guide to have a look at all the festivals across the country. And because Manchester doesn't have a specific comedy festival, it's unique to Manchester and something that is predominantly Manchester. And also, too, the significance that the Pankhurst family come from Manchester. And also we have a Women in Comedy Festival in Manchester. I think that's kind of special. So I think if we did it at other cities, it would be kind of competing with festivals that are already kind of established.
And in terms of promotion, are you looking to do much on social media, paid ads, those kind of things? Or are you trying to keep things obviously as low cost as possible?
Yeah, so we've got an ad running at the moment on social media. So we're using Instagram to promote the festival as well as Facebook. I do advise the acts to use, if they're Instagram savvy, to use Instagram because you can reach your audiences. So, there's obviously this podcast today, got a TV interview later today with That TV. Marissa, who is our PA, she's like getting stuff out to all the websites, and Chortle was a big one. So we're doing some pieces for them. And then, just advertising here at the Frog because, we get 215 people coming to per show. So I also ask all the MCs to promote the festival and kind of plug it. So we also did some flyering after Laugh-A-Rama. So that's a comedy week that they do. And then, went to all the went to the freshers to promote the festival as well. So that's we kind of go through and then go to all the cafes. So I walk around the city of Manchester going, can you take off brochures, please? So that's that's how we kind of promote the festival to the best we can, and then expect all the acts to also do their part in promoting their personal show as well.
Yes. And are you hoping there's kind of a fair bit of cross promotion from them, that, they're not just saying, see my show, they're saying, come to the festival?
Yeah. Well, we have on the website recommended shows as well. So if they're booking someone that's probably similar, then they can go, oh, cool. So yeah, we do get quite a few people that come to multiple shows, which is really cool.
Yes, I was going to say, obviously, probably the key audience is people are in and around Manchester. But do you get many that will come up for a weekend, say, and see 6-7 shows?
Yeah, we do get a few people on the weekend, definitely, that will come and see quite a few shows. There are people who've probably been there from the beginning, back when Hazel O'Keefe ran the festival. And then obviously people come for specific comics that they like to come and see. Yeah. But it's hard to know where they've come from, without doing actual data and analysis, and I'm not. That's not my forte.
So you're saying, the Frog and Bucket is the main, or the biggest one of the areas. I mean, how do you find the Manchester comedy scene? Because you've experienced in various cities and countries around the world. I mean, how does it kind of compare, do you think?
I think what's really cool about the Northwest especially is that some of the best talent in the UK or in the world come from this part of the UK. And I really like Manchester because London is quite saturated and comics are going from one gig to the next gig to the next gig. So you don't really get to have that kind of family vibe. Where I think with Manchester, we're quite supportive. We're really quite open to doubling, and there's Creatures Comedy Club down the road as well. And they're a good club because, we're very pro heavy. So they're an important club for comics who are up and coming, who need stage time. They're really supportive for those comics. And then you have all the open mics that are around Manchester as well. So I think there's a real community feel. And it's pretty special as well. The Frog is quite a special club. I'm not being biased. It's really electric. I think people still have the old day feels from 15 years ago when the Northern Quarter and Ancoats was quite a rough area. And I think people from the South still kind of feel like that about Manchester, but it's quite progressive, and the audience, they just want to laugh. But they want you to be good because they know that the best come from this side. So I think Manchester's quite special.
You worked at the Bill Murray in London, you worked in New Zealand.
Yeah.
You've done the Gilded Balloon as well.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating, the kind of comedy clubs, work in London, go to Bill Murray, Always Be Comedy, those kind of things. It's fantastic. I think personally, I kind of, to see big comedians in small rooms. I kind of like seeing the sausage being made more than the sausage itself, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. 100%. I think a lot of pro comedians will say this even when they get really big. There's nothing quite like being in a club that's got 200 people all squished together and just laughing. I think sometimes once they start doing all the big arenas, there is a bit of a lapse. You have to wait for the laughs because the arena's so huge, whereas here it's all instant. And they're so important. I know John Bishop was talking about it on the BBC One show, that how important these clubs are. And, people just want to laugh at the moment. Life is really tough and what's going on in the world. And people just want comedy. And there's nothing quite like live, instant stand-up. It's just so unique. And I don't think it's going anywhere. It's kind of like going to see a band live. Nothing, if you've got it on vinyl or CD, but it's just on Spotify. God, I've sounded so old then. But there's nothing quite like being in the room and being with other people and just feeling that magic. And we can't lose that. We can't just lose the arts. So I think.
In terms of getting people in post-pandemic, do you find, say, Mondays are quite difficult still, or
no?
Manchester, because it's a bit more, you don't have as much of a commuter basis, I guess, that you would in London. So Monday's still relatively good.
Yeah, because that's Beat the Frog. So that's our open mic night. It's our gong shows. So that's our student nights. So all the students come to that. So we're still really busy. Like Thursday's probably the hardest night just because it's more date night. The weekends are really, really busy. We're quite lucky since COVID, we've been super, super busy. Like I said, people just want to laugh and they just want to come out and have a good time. And they trust the frog, the brand. I think it's a bit different when you're trying to sell a tour show or, like other events that have lineups in it. They're different, but people trusting the frog brand. So they're coming, even sometimes they don't know who's on the lineup. They just trust we know what we're doing and putting on a good show. And I think that's the same with all the big clubs across the country. So yeah, so Mondays are actually really, really busy. So it's a good night too.
Yes. I mean, what are your kind of thoughts on the rise of crowd work, both in terms of, in the club itself and on social media?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you can tell sometimes when comics are trying to get the clip. It's a bit different when they're the compere and they're that's their job. Most comics are pretty good at not doing it. I know that there has become a trend. It's a tough one because sometimes the audience will just give them a bit of gold and they've got to run with it. And then sometimes you can tell that, oh, you should have just left that alone. But it is hard to kind of manage. We wouldn't want to like control a comic. Obviously, yeah, I think most comics are pretty good, to be fair. I wouldn't say that they are up to the clickbait.
And in terms of programming, both for the festival and the Wrong Bucket, how much of your job is kind of dragging people in and kind of saying, make sure when you're, say, for the festival, have you thought about it? And then in general work, kind of you know that someone's touring, say, don't forget Manchester.
So it's going to sound a bit arrogant, but we don't really have that issue. They normally are looking for a venue, so they will contact us. And because we're the only big comedy club, because when we do tours at the Frog, it's 2-4-5, so we change the seating plan. So most people are looking for that. So yeah, we don't actually, I can't really answer that question because we don't really have people. I think with the festival though, that's different because I will get female like promoters coming to us asking us, oh, can you put on a tour for so-and-so? And I'll be like, have you thought about October? So that's probably when I will push for it because we want some good names to come to and be a part of the festival. But in terms of the Frog, we don't really chase for shows. They tend to come to us. And it's more about deciding whether they're right or whether they will sell. And so it's, every time it's a risk.
And how difficult is that in terms of different styles and different levels of fame and all the rest of it? Do you try and spread those out and have a good mix?
No, not really. We normally just have a look at the numbers on social media. We look if they toured before as a big indication. So if they've never done a UK tour, we might not be right for them just yet. So we might suggest some other places in Manchester to go to. Again, are they from the UK? Are they from, the States, for example? Just because they're huge in the States doesn't necessarily mean it transfers here. And that's because, like I keep saying, we've got the best talent in the world. So a UK audience would rather go and see someone from the UK because they know they're good. So I think it's a lot of that. It's just more, and then you just take a risk. It's more a gut feeling. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. So that's pretty much what that is with booking the Frog.
Saying about, your experience with Gilded Balloons, so a lot of people I've had on the podcast has been fringe related because, it's not the be all and end all, but it certainly seems that way at times.
Yeah.
Both financially and professionally. I mean, what were your kind of experiences with it?
So in 2016, I was still working at the Classic Comedy Club in New Zealand, and it was a rite of passage to go and work at the festival. So I was the front of house supervisor for Gilded Balloon, and that's when they ran the Pear Tree. I don't know if you know that they had pay what you want kind of scheme. It was a bit controversial at the time. And then it was kind of interesting. My boss also brings people over for the New Zealand International Comedy Festival. So I was also helping him scout comedy, but no one knew. So I was a little fly on the wall. So it was a lot. It was really stressful because you're dealing with 20 shows a day. But what was kind of cool about our venue is because we only had 4 rooms, no, it was 5 rooms, we really got to know the comic really well. And so by the end of it, you did become quite a family. It was really interesting to see how they tick through the whole month. I've gone back as a scout watching for the Women in Comedy Festival. And then at the time I was helping my boss with her agency and looking after an act that way. So it's, I think what's good about the Fringe is that you get a month, especially if you're still kind of newish or been only doing comedy for 5 to 7 years. It's really good to hone your craft because you have to do it every day. And you have to do it in front of people who are taking a risk on you. You're not in the safety of a club. You know, you're having to work, and you can see the difference from comics before they go to Fringe and after they've done their first Fringe, how much they've grown in their confidence. I think the downfall of the Fringe, as we all know, it's really expensive. Accommodation is hard. Does the awards really help anymore to what it was back in the day? I don't know. But yeah, so the Fringe is problematic, but also really good.
I don't know if you want to kind of finish with what the festival is, some of the acts.
The Women in Comedy Festival starts on the 2nd of October to the 12th of October. This is a non-for-profit festival. It's supporting women here in Manchester. It's a really, really cool festival. Come and see some new talent, some people you probably heard of. Come out and support as many shows as you can. Some highlights would probably be, obviously, you got your big acts like Mickey Overman and Helen Bauer, but there's also people like Chloe Reynolds, who's getting a lot of attention at the moment. Alice India, who did really well at festivals. Sakisa did really well at Edinburgh Fringe. So did Amy Webber. There's improv. There's a woman who's being a sheep called Ruth. There's just so many shows. Come and support here in Manchester. So there you go.
No, that's great. Yes, I had Sakisa on just before Fringe.
I knew Sakisa at the Bill Murray when I worked there.
Okay.
So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it was amazing because I was kind of, so obviously I spoke to her when she was doing a work in progress in London, and I think the day before she was doing one in Manchester, and then she was doing one in Norwich. It was all over the place.
Yeah.
And obviously she's got a job as an immigration lawyer, so it's kind of like, wow.
Yeah, she's impressive. Like, I love Sakisa. She was also on, we do a podcast as well, The Woman in Comedy, and she was a guest on that. But like I said, I've known her since I worked at Bill Murray. And it's just so great to see her success, I think, like just to see how well she's doing. It's really cool. I think that's one highlight of the job is just seeing people who you've met and the next thing you know, they're like skyrocketing and you're like, oh, it's really cool to see their journey. I think that's really special. And then for her to come back to do our festival is really cool.
Yes. There's one thing I meant to mention actually was, yes, the podcast, even though they're from last year, they're still interested in chat and all the rest of it. I mean, how did you find that?
I was living my radio fantasy. You know, when you were a kid and you had your cassette tapes and you would record and you'd have your little microphone. I really wanted to be a radio DJ when I was young, but then I realized you can't pick your own playlist. So I lost interest. It's really cool, as you know, doing a podcast. It's so much fun to talk to people and find out about their lives. I think the hard part of podcasts is it's quite saturated, and then trying to get it out there and push it whilst you have a full-time job is also really difficult. But I love that we have something for women to listen to, because I don't know if you know this, but a lot of females aren't in the green rooms together. So they don't actually get to talk and get advice. So I think that's what's special. We are hoping to do another series this year, but it's I just got to find my time to process it. Yeah.
Are you thinking of doing anything during the festival, you know, kind of pops and all the rest of it?
Yeah, that's my plan. That's something I'm going to start thinking about next week, is who I'd like to interview, and maybe make them a bit shorter than longer, and just make them quite quick podcasts, because I think that'd be easier. But as you know, there's so much work of editing and
yes. I mean, as I've said to others before, this is the fun bit.
Yeah.
But then editing it and clipping it, show notes and everything else. But like I said, you know, it's hard to kind of moan about that when, you know, you got to see the kind of stuff Sakisa's doing with everything. And another guest I had, he's comedian, doctor, and he's written a book about being a doctor. And you can like, you know, I kind of think, oh, I got to edit a podcast. And, you know, it's not compared to what other people get up to.
Yeah.
Thanks to Aimee for coming on the podcast. You can find out more details in the show notes about the festival, which starts in Manchester on the 2nd of October. If you enjoyed this, check out our other episodes with a variety of comedians, musicians, authors, and others in creative industries. Thanks for listening.